Hello, welcome back to my channel. Last week, I just took a flight from San Francisco to Singapore via VTL. VTL is Vaccinated Travel Lane. It's a program that launched by Singapore government that allows travelers to travel to Singapore without quarantine, as long as you meet all the requirements of the VTL checklist. And the VTL program now is open to about a dozen of countries. So in this video, I want to share with you how my experience is like with VTL and what are some of the things that you need to pay attention to when you travel, and don't make the same mistake as I did so that your travel can be more smooth. And if this information is helpful to your family or your friends, feel free to share this video with them, and I would appreciate a thumb up and subscribe. So before we jump into this video, I want to share a little bit of background information with you. I hold a US passport and a Singapore PR if you have different nationality or different status in Singapore. So your requirement will be a little bit more than what I'm sharing in this video. Regardless, this video will be helpful to you. For the entire experience, I want to break it down into three parts. One is pre-departure, second is the flight day, the third is after arrival. So for pre-departure, let's talk about which flight you can take as VTL flight. For my case, specifically from US to Singapore, there are actually two airlines that serve VTL flight. Originally, there was only SQ, which is Singapore Airlines, but then later on, starting January 5th, United Airlines or UA also started VTL flight. So I actually took a United flight back to Singapore because the flight fare was cheaper when I booked. So from San Francisco to Singapore for United, there's a flight called UA1, so that's the flight that I take. And of course, you can choose to take Singapore Airlines if you would like to, and they have better services and also better food as well. So UA1 is a nighttime flight, and Singapore Airlines right now they have two flights, one flight in the morning and one flight at night. So in order for you to travel through VTL, make sure that you book the VTL flight. Otherwise, you have to be quarantined if you don't fly with designated VTL flights. And second is proof of vaccination. You need to have a vaccination certificate from either Pfizer, Moderna, or one of those major ones. And I personally already took 3 vaccines, 2 Pfizers that I took from California and Moderna that I took in Singapore.
Thank you.
And in order to be qualified for this VTL, you have to have at least 2 doses of vaccination. You don't need to have 3, but at least 2. So the third thing is PCR test before departure. For this VTL, you need to take your PCR 2 days before departure, but not earlier than 2 days. So make sure that you find the right timing. And last week, I actually made a video on how I've gone through the PCR test in California, which there was quite a bit of incidents. So go back to watch that video. What the heck? That's like the most ridiculous test result I've ever seen. My flight is actually tomorrow night, which is driving me crazy right now. And there's more details in that video. There are a couple of choices for the COVID test. One is PCR, the other is antigen. So the first test I took 2 days before departure was actually PCR. Then because some incident happened, and then I took another COVID test the same day of departure day. And the second test I took was actually antigen. And in California, there are actually a couple of tests that are quite popular for travel. One of them is called NAT. There are a lot of clinics in California offer that, and I was able to book a NAT, but I was not able to use it for Singapore flight. And make sure that you take the right test, otherwise you are not allowed to board the plane. So I almost missed my flight due to the PCR test. It can be really stressful, so make sure that you book in advance when you're in the Bay Area. All the test centers require a booking in advance. So the fourth requirement before departure is that you need to fill out a health declaration arrival card before you fly out. For that, you can only do 3 days before your arrival time, and make sure that it's 3 days before arrival time, not departure time. So because from San Francisco to Singapore, it's about 18 hours flight, so make sure that you count the time of your arrival and not the time of departure, because that could be 1 day differences. So if you miscalculate the timing, you won't be allowed to board the plane. So now it comes to the flight day. The first thing is check-in process. When I was at the airport, they checked so many things. So they even checked the prepaid booking of the COVID test when you arrive at the Changi airport, not only the one that you've done in San Francisco. I prepaid my COVID test online so that I get a confirmation. Then they also check your Trace Together app and see whether or not you've downloaded your Trace Together app on your phone. Of course, your PCR test, your declaration form, proof of vaccinations, and things like that. Take a lot of work. So they ask to see your Trace Together app, health declaration form. So there are a lot of logistics they need to see before I can actually get my boarding pass. So now it's all good. I got it and ready to go. Then the next thing is going through security. So for me, I've got this global entry card and it's specific for US. With that global entry, I can go through a pre-checked TSA lane, which means that I don't need to take off my shoes, I don't need to take out my laptop, I don't need to take out a whole bunch of stuff, which can be quite troublesome. So I just quickly go through that without much of a check because I'm a safe person. Then the next thing is in-flight. From San Francisco to Singapore is about 17.5 direct flight. Flight is taxiing and I'm about to take off. I'll see you guys at Singapore. Maybe it's because it's a VTL. People seem to be quite healthy. I didn't hear any coughing sound throughout the entire flight of 18 hours and not many people around, so I had a really good night's sleep of 10 hours on the flight, and I was really grateful to that because after I got back to Singapore, I didn't have much of an adjustment on jet lag, and I'm very happy to make another separate video to talk about my flight experiences this time. Then the next thing is after arrival at Changi Airport in Singapore. The first thing is the arrival PCR test at Changi Airport. So as I mentioned, I pay in advance online, so I just need to show them the QR code when I arrive at the test center. Not only they do your nose, but they also poke into the back of your throat. So I was like coughing really bad throughout the test. So the next thing is the taxi. As I mentioned, you need to take a taxi or a private car. It's part of the VTL requirements. I'm a very minimalist traveler, so in the past 1.5 months, I only have one carry-on luggage. I have no check-in luggage at all. So I took a Grab back home straight. Right now I'm on a Grab going home. Need to stay home until I got the COVID test result from the airport so that I can go out. And wait, after I go back home, the whole thing is not done yet. I will need to continuously do COVID tests in the next 6 days after arrival. The government just changed the COVID test requirements starting January 24th, 2022, that the supervised COVID testing is no longer required. So that means I can do all of this ART tests at home by myself. I didn't know how to do it at the beginning. Now I've done it so many times this week, so now I know how to do it. And what's so great is that I was given a free ART test kit at the airport, so I don't even need to buy more. This ART test kit for free. So now I just finished all my 7 days of quarantine in a soft form, and now I'm free to go anywhere. I hope this video give you a lot of information about your travel to Singapore. If you or your family or your friends are thinking to take a VTL flight, feel free to share this video with them. Last but not least, give a thumb up, subscribe to my channel and share the video with your friends, and see you next time.